viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. In today's edition, we are going to tackle the celebration marking Africa Day, shedding light on Egypt's leading role in Africa, as well as the significance of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. Our dear viewers, the Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry met on Monday with the African ambassadors in Cairo as part of the African Day celebration. Spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ahmed Abu Zaid, stated that the meeting comes within the framework of the celebrations of Africa Day, which is celebrated on the 25th of May annually, which coincides with the anniversary of the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the Organization of the African Unity.
Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry asserted in a meeting with African ambassadors on Monday that Egypt stands firmly by its African brothers, stressing the importance of unity and solidarity in confronting the challenges that face the continent. Shoukry's remarks come as he received the African ambassadors in Cairo on the occasion of Africa Day, to be celebrated on May 25th. This year's celebration also marks the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the OAU. Abu Zaid added that Shoukry met with ambassadors ahead of the celebration to express congratulations. Shoukry stated that the founding fathers of the OAU made great progress in promoting self-governance, peace, security, and development in Africa. In 2002, the OAU developed into the African Union, after many African countries declared in 1999 that the time had come for a new organization to replace the AOU. Shoukry asserted the unity of African countries remains central to overcoming any challenges these countries may face, shedding light on current geopolitical tensions as well as other crises. He went on to say that the coronavirus, the war in Ukraine, and the energy and climate crisis have all had an adverse impact on Africa, stressing that the continent has been hardly hit too by lack of food security, inflation, and debt. According to a statement by the spokesperson for the Foreign Minister, Ahmed Abu Zaid, Africa Day provides the chance for African countries to reaffirm their bonds of fellowship and foster solidarity and cooperation as they strive to achieve their goals and improve the lives of their people. Furthermore, Shoukry affirmed Egypt's keenness to strengthen and increase cooperation with international partners as well as financing institutions. Such cooperation aims to decrease the financing gap for development projects in Africa, reduce debt, and implement the continent's 2063 agenda. Shoukry noted that Egypt will spare no effort to safeguard Africa's interests, highlighting Egypt's position as a founding member of the AU. The foreign minister concluded by saying that Egypt wishes to continue to support its brotherly African countries and collaborate with them on establishing a free trade zone in the region.
And to shed light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Salah Abdullah, our political analyst. Dr. Abdullah, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Welcome back. Dr. Abdullah, since 2014, Egypt has placed the African continent at the top of its priorities based on the firm conviction in its African identity and belief in the long-standing ties with the continent. Would you please shed light on Egypt's role in the African continent recently?
Well, Egypt's role in Africa is a long time ago, since the independence movement in all the African countries. Egypt was the pioneer in helping the African countries for freedom. And the Nasserist era in Egypt was very active in supporting the freedom movements in all the African countries and helping the newly countries which had been free from the colonialism. So that role of Egypt has a great effect or deep effect in the African country.
Yeah.
Of course, from 2014, Egypt reactivated its relation with the African countries in many aspects, especially things had been changed, and now economy and education and the health regime and the health programs became very important to the African countries. So Egypt is starting increasing the economic ties, the activities by helping the African countries, sending doctors, engineers, teachers, and many skilled persons to help in development of the African countries. Also, Egypt has many ties with the African countries, especially in the question of trading between the African countries, because African countries can have a great chance by cooperating together to be away from the strong effect of the foreign currency on the economy in the African countries by trading between the African countries. That's why you see that Egypt have a great trading with Sudan, with Ethiopia, with Uganda, with Nigeria, with South Africa.
Yes, indeed.
Also in the question of education, you know, we have many universities, Egyptian universities in African countries, and at the same time we have Senghor University in Alexandria, which is an African country, which is an African university for the African to study. Also in the military side, you know, many of the students came to the military colleges in Egypt for study and training, either as a police officer or as the army officer. In the question of helping the relation between the West and Africa, Egypt play a great diplomatic role through the international conferences to support and increasing the investment of the rich countries in the African countries as a method of stopping the illegal immigration to Europe, which is the European is suffering from the illegal immigration. So Egypt was playing a great role in encouraging the European countries for investing and having projects in the African countries, so to increase the chance of work to the young generations in Africa and decrease the illegal immigration to the European countries. So that's why you find that Egypt is especially have a very prominent and special location in the mind of the African, in all the African countries, due to the role they are playing. And if we look now, as you see what's happening in Sudan, you find Egypt opening the borders for the Sudanese, helping the Sudanese, affording medical support for those who are running from their own country to Egypt. You know, we have around more than 6 million African immigrants living in Egypt free. We are not doing like what happened in some of the European countries, which they put the immigrant in special camps in a side areas or in a very uncomfortable life. No. The immigrants here in Egypt, they are living with the Egyptian people. Even some parts of the capital, Cairo now, they are all immigrants from African countries.
Yes.
So the role of Egypt in Africa is great. And I think the African is, they know that very well.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Abdullah, as we are celebrating Africa Day, which coincide with the 60th anniversary of the establishment of the Organization of the African Unity. How do you see here the challenges that the African continent is facing, and yet how we can increase our level of cooperation as we are commemorating this very special day?
Of course, the African countries have a great chance to work hard to increase the standard of life in the African community. You know, this can come through the cooperation between African countries. As example, I give you, one of the problems in Africa is roads, you know. All the roads in Africa is not completed. Either you can go by airplane or through the ocean by ships, but there is no roads directly from town to town or from capital to capital, except in a minor cases. That's why the project of making a road from Cape Town, South Africa to Cairo is very important, because it will increase the importing and exporting of goods between the African countries, will increase the activities between the African countries, will increase the traveling between the African countries. Also, the project of making the River Nile as a road for transport is very important also, because there is many countries in Africa which we call inside countries. They didn't have any harbors. So through the Nile, they can sell their own products to Europe through Egypt. Also, the trading between the African countries without using the dollars and the hard currency will decrease the pressure on the economy in the African countries, and this will help. I can take, let us say, meats from Sudan, and I give them instead, some industries from the Egyptian industries. The same thing with Uganda. The same thing, I can take tea from Kenya or Uganda, and I give them instead products from Egypt. This will release the economy of Egypt and the economy of Uganda and the economy of Kenya from that hard currency problem which the West is controlling. The third important point is through education. Through education or cooperation in education by different universities can be opened in the many African countries which still have lack of education. This can help in increasing the standard of education in the African countries. The important point that the businessmen in all the African countries can invest in a joint projects in Africa. Let us say if you want to make a factory in Uganda, some businessmen from Egypt and Uganda and Kenya can cooperate together to have a great project in Uganda, which will help the Ugandan economy and will help in increasing the employment and decreasing the unemployment.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Salah Abdullah, our political analyst. Thank you so much, sir, for your precious input. Always a pleasure. And moving on to Sudan, war erupted 1 month ago, whereby the capital is in a war zone where territorial and the families there are huddled at home as gun battle rage, while the western Darfur region has descended into chaos. More details.